It is far easier to be creative and express ourselves than it is to hold it all in. It's like smiling. Having a smile on your face requires less facial muscles than it does to frown. Welcome to The Modern Creative Woman, exploring the art and science of creativity. I'm your hostess and creativity expert, Dr. Amy Bacos. Let's get started. Have you ever considered that it's actually easier to be your authentic self and just express it? It requires so much energy to be not authentic and to be not creative. It takes a real toll on our minds and our bodies if we're only passively consuming the creativity of others. It's our natural biological state. We are surviving as a species because of creativity. Your brain wants to create. In this episode, we are talking about why it's easier to be expressive than hold it all in. And I'll give you some ideas about how you can do that. And it especially is important for us as women to figure out what's most important to us and really move towards it in a way that feels good and authentic. There's three main reasons why it's easier to be expressive than to hold ourselves in. But first, I want to acknowledge that a lot of people struggle because they are forced to hide aspects of their identity. And it might be religion, sexuality, other behaviors or identities that are not accepted. And often people are told that they're too much of one aspect of themselves. And certainly growing up, race and culture play a huge impact on how we are taught to express ourselves, where it's safe to express ourselves. But holding all the parts of ourselves in or hiding parts of our identity can have a big toll on our mental and physical health. Why? It takes so much psychic energy to really hide who we are. It takes a lot of energy to rein ourselves in, dislike parts of ourselves, shun parts of ourselves. It takes a real tax on us. A second reason is that authenticity feels better. It's a really important reason to get in touch with our authentic self. We feel kind of worse when we don't know ourselves, and it makes life a little more difficult. If we don't know what we want, we certainly can't get it. If we don't know which direction we want to go, any road will get us there. And the third reason why it's just easier to express ourselves instead of holding it in is that it's natural and normal and biological. We have the urge to express ourselves. It's how we've survived all of these generations of humankind, is through creativity and invention. So the toll it takes can be feeling frustrated with ourselves, very dissatisfied with perhaps our relationships or our work. We can feel unsure about how to move forward with our lives. When we're able to express ourselves authentically, we have what is essentially the magic of authenticity. And creativity gives us that kind of magic. Part of it is visualizing who we want to be, where we want to be. And then the second part is knowing ourselves more, why we might want those things. There's several components to creativity. And as you're listening to these three areas, see if you can identify how you could be more creative. So the three areas are presence, mindset, and purpose. These are the areas we focus on in the modern creative woman, and they are the things that drive us forward in our lives. The first one is presence, and it's really about mindful awareness. It's about making contact with the present moment. And it's also seeing our lives in the bigger picture. In acceptance and commitment therapy, it's called self as context. And it's the you that has seen everything. It's the part of you that's enduring. You can think of it as your spirit. You can think of it as the you that's always been there. And getting in contact with that part of yourself is a first step towards the magic of your own authenticity. The second piece is around your mindset. And that makes up a big part of how we lead our lives day to day. We overly rely on our brain and our verbal centers. Wernicke's and Broca's areas are the parts in our brain that are responsible for verbal and linguistic processing. They're only the size of like a peanut. They're a really small part of our brain. So that piece of information alone should let you know that there's so much more that we can access in our brain. It also lets you know that thoughts are just a tiny part of our experience. And thoughts are just one neuron firing across a synapse to another neuron. They're not real. In people who've experienced trauma, the thoughts and memories often seem real, and they become really disturbed by that experience of having the memory. And the idea of diffusing from our thoughts, taking a step back to recognize thoughts are thoughts, they're not reality. I saw an incredible bumper sticker recently and it said, "Don't believe everything you think." I thought that was some excellent advice. Don't believe everything you think. Most of the time, our brains are full of cognitive distortions and ways of thinking that do not serve us, do not move us forward, and actually hold us back. We tend to think the same thoughts over and over again. So of these components of creativity, presence, mindset, and the third one is purpose. And your purpose is something you decide on. You choose it. And it really is coming down to your values and your committed actions to show your values to yourself and the world. And your values might be in the domain of a romantic relationship or parenting, your work, vocation, creativity, hobbies, spirituality. And it's like a direction, like going west. You can go around and around the world going west and never reach west. So values are not goals. They're not objectives or things you put on your to-do list. They're like a compass and they tell you where to go. And the committed actions or inspired actions that you take to demonstrate your values are how you know you're living according to your values. So if you're in an intimate partner relationship and you value being trustworthy and responsible and loving and kind and supportive, then you ask yourself, am I doing those things? Am I showing those things? Does my partner know those things are important to me? Would aliens, if they came down and observed me, know that that was important to me? The committed actions are how you embody your values. So presence, mindset, and purpose. Those are the three pillars in the modern creative woman that allow us to live fully creative, authentic lives. So I have a few ideas for you as you think about expressing yourself and kind of honoring your innate biological need to be creative. And it requires all of us to notice how much passive consumption we are taking in and how much active creation we are doing. So passive consumption is just taking in the creations made by other people. So it could be film, television, social media, just observing the creation of others. And sometimes it's inspiring. We go see a play or a film that's really incredible if we go to an art museum. And there's certainly value in consuming a certain amount of creativity of others. But you'll start to know when enough is enough. You find yourself sort of mindlessly consuming social media, watching episode after episode. There's a research study that in a brain scan demonstrates that watching TV, our brains are less active than when we're asleep, not even dreaming, just like asleep. It really takes a toll on our brain. So when we can recognize and kind of get excited about creating something, then you're ready to create what's around you in a way that you like. So my first suggestion, which is so much fun, is to go on an artist date. And if you're a woman like me who's busy, I'm a mom, I'm in business, I have things to do, it can be a tough schedule to find time to set aside for yourself to go on an artist date. However, once I begin to prioritize these dates with myself, I realized how much they benefited every other thing that I was doing. I could be more present in my life in so many ways, and I knew what I was going towards. I had so much more clarity in my relationships, with my family, at work. So, schedule yourself an artist date. I like to do this once a week. And I set aside time to simply be creative. And it includes having some delicious food and pulling out my art supplies, my journal, and just spending time with myself. You can certainly do this taking yourself out for a cup of coffee and taking your journal with you. I like to spread my art supplies kind of all over my studio and see what is going to inspire me for the day. An artist date pays you back 10 times the amount of time you put into it. So if you are able to set aside 1 hour this week, that's all you can do, it will create space for you to think about the rest of your life, to know what's exciting and interesting, and help you really nourish yourself. Many people probably rely on you, and when you're healthy and well-nourished and emotionally satisfied, everyone else benefits. This artist date is an investment in you and your whole family. The second thing I want to recommend is journaling. And I've worked with lots of women who, when I brought this up, would say, oh, I've tried that before, I don't like that. Now, journaling is whatever you want to make of it. There is not a right or wrong way. And many people feel like, oh, they have to do it every day. They must commit to, for the whole rest of their life, creating a journal entry every day. Journaling is whatever you want it to be. It's fun to find journal prompts. You can write things like, what is my future self like in 5 years? You could write, what do I love to do? You could head your paper with, how can I be the best version of myself? You could start it off with, what do I like? What are my favorite things? Another prompt is, what are 50 things I would like to try? Figure out a way that you can create a journaling experience that works for you. You can turn on the video on your phone and just record yourself making a video journal entry. You can do a journal entry on your phone, just recording it and listening to it later. Figure out what's going to work for you. This kind of expression is a really powerful way to know yourself. The next recommendation is around meditation. And again, so many people feel like this is not for them. It's too complicated. They get too fidgety. But being in contact with the present moment is done anywhere. Thich Nhat Hanh has a meditation while doing dishes, a meditation while making tea. He wrote about an incredible meditation when you hug someone. I'll tell you how to do this. You go try it and let me know what you think. When you're hugging someone, you say, she or he or they are alive in my arms and I love them. They are alive in my arms and I love them. And you can invite them to say the same thing back to you. It's a powerful way to bring you both into the present and just feel good and notice what's happening. You can do a walking meditation. You can just count your steps, and when you lose count, start counting again. You could go for a walk in the park with the idea of just noticing things. You could take photos, one for each color of the rainbow, and create a beautiful rainbow collage with your photos. That's mindfulness too. You can even download some walking meditations from YouTube. Meditation is for you to know yourself and observe your mind and be able to take a step back, recognize how your mind works, and the more you know, the better off you are. And finally, my fourth recommendation is collage. I think a lot of self-development and business people focus on creating a vision board using collage. And that's certainly one way to do it. You could do a vision board for all kinds of aspects of your life, what you want in the future. But you can also do a vision board that relates to how do you feel? How do you want your love life to be? How do you want your fashion style to be? It can focus on whatever aspect of your life is most exciting, interesting, or maybe the aspect you want to change. There's also a wonderful technique called soul collage. You can check that out. They've got a good website and you can order some materials there. And it uses collage in a much more archetypal way. It's a really powerful exercise, soul collage. So those are my 4 recommendations. I would love to know what you end up doing on your artist date. So the recommendations again are going on the artist date, journaling, some kind of meditation, and also collage. So now that you know that it's easier to be creative and expressive because it's biologically natural and innate, we have this human urge to create, it's easier to express yourself than it is to hold it all in. Now that you know, what will you create? Have a wonderful week, and I cannot wait to see you in the next episode. And hey, come join me and the Modern Creative Woman on Instagram, Facebook, and Pinterest at Dr. Amy Bacos. You can be a friend of the pod and keep the content free for women who maybe can't afford a membership or art therapy. And have you gotten a copy of the 5 Values of the Modern Creative Woman? Hop on over to the Art Therapy Center SF, that's Art Therapy Center SF, and join our email list, and you'll get a copy of the Modern Creative Woman Manifesto. It'll give you what you need to start to live your modern creative life. Take care.